I think it's a... I'd say it's a fantasy...
What about the phrase, like, atmospheric horror?
I
would call it a sci-fi horror game.
I would too. I would say that it's an action-adventure science fiction game with horror elements to it. Yeah. That's how I would define it.
Just to kind of follow up on your sound thing there, to compare it with film, say Hitchcock, where you have Psycho, where it wouldn't be Psycho without the which is brilliant. But then again, if you watch The Birds, there is no music. Mm-hmm. So if you added music to that, it wouldn't have that kind of impact. So there's like the two camps of the whole thing.
I think when you're dealing with horror, for instance, you can make different choices in design, in all like graphics, sound, however you want to look at it. You can make different choices than, say, if you're making just a straight up action shooter where there has to be a certain mood, you want adrenaline and you want to keep that adrenaline going. Yeah. With survival horror games, you want to punctuate the what's happening with adrenaline. You want to lull us into a sense of security and then take that away again.
Yeah.
Right.
Slender Man. That's quintessential.
Mm-hmm.
Like bare bones.
We could go on and on. I mean, I love horror movies. I love horror games. There, in my opinion, there aren't enough of them. But yeah, we were talking about Bioshock.
We were at one
a few hours ago.
Yeah, that's right.
So moving right along with that. Next point is that it has been said since its initial release that Bioshock is evidence of how games can be viewed as an art form. So what's the opinion on games becoming or even needing to be more sophisticated? Dean, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that as a gamer, I like to think that the gaming audience is large and vast, but I know that the reality is that's not true at all. So I'm at a point where even myself as a gamer, I expect games to be blowing me away on every level, because they're at a point where if they want to sell it to the rest of the world as an art form, they've got to blow people away. I think where they have to go is they have to sound better, they have to look better, and the stories and the characters have to have more depth, and that's more important than anything. Sound and graphics, we've already established that 5-6 years ago they were doing it good enough. So it's got to be about the story. It's got to be top notch to be considered an art form. You can consider other things about it artsy, like there is art in the graphics and there's art in the sound and the music or whatever. But as
color
a whole,
palettes, the style.
It's got to be video games as an art form has to be about how it makes you feel when you finish playing it. To me personally. Mm. So where do they have to go? I just more into the story. They have to get better writers.
Fair enough.
I agree. I disagree a bit with some of the things said. I do think that the gaming audience is a vast one. I think that the vast majority of gamers are what we would consider traditional gamers, between certain ages, mostly male, mostly predisposed towards a certain type of game. I think that lately with, the wireless age we live in, I think there is a secondary market opening up. My mom and your mom and Dean's mom are starting to get into Facebook games and starting to get into pocket games and things like that. So I think that this is the type of game we do need to see to be accepted, for video games to be accepted as more than just kid stuff. Certainly, I think that this is, pardon the pun, I think this is a far cry from some of the other games we're seeing. I think Dean hit the nail on the head 100% when he said that it's all about the story. We have demonstrated time and time again that whatever the limits of our current generation's technology are, developers will adapt to using it in the most efficient way. And we're certainly at a place where people are not afraid to take risks with new technology.
Yeah.
But straight up, Connected Ventures is not going to convince anyone that video games are a legitimate art form.
Yeah, the Connect, what a great idea. Did you think about how many games you're actually going to be able to make for your Connect?
Exactly. So I think Dean's right. Where games are going to find their recognition in the mainstream, where games are going to, what it's going to take to elevate games to that next level is going to be the idea that a game has to matter to its player in whatever way. And I think certainly if we're talking about art, I think that story and atmosphere are the easiest ways to, the most rewarding ways to get people to recognize what the medium's capable of.
People, like, it's about selling the fact that a game can be as enjoyable as a good book. And that's where I think that they can get an older audience if they try to push that.
Well, and that's fucking fantastic, because one awesome little side effect that I've noticed is the trend of re-releasing games. There's a whole generation now of gamers that have never played Baldur's Gate or Planescape Torment or anything like that, and those are amazing examples of games
Some
with
people
literature.
who haven't played System Shock 2, which is its spiritual predecessor to the entire Bioshock franchise. So anyway,
yeah, well, that's just what I'm saying is if we can recognize that story matters in a game, that's excellent, because that means that there's all this stuff that's going to get re-recognized. From a development standpoint, you now have game designers and code sequencers and people who deal with the technology side of things working alongside artists and writers, and that's phenomenal. Yeah. That's how it's going to happen right there.
Yeah, that's, I think, that you could tell in the video game industry when they stopped using themselves as the writers. Okay, let's just write the story how we want it to go, and actually hired people who know how to structure
how to do dialogue, how to make you care about a character, that kind of thing. How to use music to influence a scene.
Yeah.
You know, and consequently, then you end up with so you've got two artists, say they're working on music for a scene, and the guy who's responsible for coding that music into a scene has an idea about, oh, well, that sounds really nice. Maybe instead of having that play over the PA system as you walk into the room, maybe I'll put an old phonograph on a desk, and we can add some static to it, make it sound like an old phonograph record.
Yeah.
People, scientists and artists working together, man. So that's how it's going to happen.
So I agree and disagree with this question here. I love the idea that any way that video games can be taken a little more seriously doesn't necessarily have to be a mature way, but a little more serious way, a little more respect for it. I'm all for whether that's dictated by the story, the actual graphics, what have you. I mean, it's all good. I'm happy that it's getting its recognition. Do I think it's necessary, though? No. I like it. That's the kind of stuff that sells me. But this is something I may talk about in a separate episode for Deep Seeded Geek. But the idea that games are supposed to be a game. They're supposed to be fun, And this whole thing like, oh, we need to get more recognition and take us seriously and rah, rah, rah. That's all well and good, but if you're playing the video game version of Moby Dick, I don't want to play that because it's not fun. If a video game is great if it has like a storyline and everything, but if it doesn't have something that gets me interested in it as a play mechanic, I'm not sure I want that. So, like you can have the most serious of serious games, like say Heavy Rain. Okay, if that control scheme didn't grab me right away, I don't think I would give it the chance. And it's an amazing story. It's an amazing achievement. It is a visual art form, so to speak.
And that game more than others a lot of
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
exactly. But if the gameplay of it, the whole idea, like the motion I'm doing here is the motion you would be doing for turning a doorknob or something like that. If that didn't grab me, I wouldn't care for it, you know? Whereas you flip it around and you have something like Rayman Origins, okay? Which is just like nutso kind of fun, extremely crazy fun. Is it going to be lauded as like this respectable game? No, probably not. Maybe as an art form because it's a beautifully illustrated game.
Yeah, that's a good example you bring up there because Rayman is a beautiful game and it's a hell of a lot of fun to play. But it's sort of like a B movie of the video game world. Is anybody going to really look at it for any artistic merit?
Yeah,
they should because it's an accomplishment.
Look at new Super Mario Brothers on the Wii, right? You get
example.
4 friends on that thing. It is some of the most sick fun I have ever had in a video game. Is there a story? I don't know. If there is, I don't know.
It's Mario. There's your story. It's a Mario game.
Go get the princess.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very generic stuff. Is that going to be looked back on as like the pinnacle of games as an art form? No. But does it have to be? I think that's what I'm trying to get to, is that I'm so proud that video games have come so far that they are being recognized for their accomplishments, but I don't want to sacrifice the fun of video games in favor of that.
And I think, in defense of the industry, I don't think that'll ever happen.
No.
Story will always come second to how good of, in my opinion anyways, to how good of a game it is. Because I can't think of a game that I've played through that had a great story and a shitty game.
Well, that's like...
And the closest that I can come to that is Bioshock.
That's like buying a game, looking at a game that has an excellent story, but the gameplay is lacking. That's like reading a comic book where the writing is amazing, but they slacked off. They got the writer to draw it. Like it doesn't work, right? You have to have it. You're absolutely right. Like the game has to come first because it's a game, right? Period.
But look at something like The Walking Dead, okay? Fantastic story. I don't know a single person who has even touched the game that doesn't want to see it to its conclusion. Great. And it's artistic in its own way. Gameplay-wise, point click. That would not grab me.
The game is the story. The game, the gameplay is a mechanic designed to get you to experience the story.
Yeah. So in answer to Dean's question, playing a game that the gameplay didn't grab me, I would say that game. A point-and-click game, to me, just feels like a way to interact with the environment to further the story. So as a fun kind of experience, I don't know if you can actually call the Walking Dead experience fun. It was depressing, but enjoyable, for sure.
We got to be careful what we say about The Walking Dead. Dean still hasn't played it.
I'll play it eventually. No big deal.
No, it's
not a big deal. Get out.
super not like pressuring, but
I'm like that.
It's one of those games. The one sad thing about The Walking Dead is you can't talk about it with people who haven't played it yet. No. Spoilers ruin the experience.
Yeah. I do want to play it, but it's one of those games where it's like certain like TV series where I'm savoring, waiting until it gets finished and then I can play it all.
Well,
it is finished.
The
game is done.
But there's season...
Well, season 2's coming out, but it's not out yet. Season 1's finished and season 2 comes out at the end of this year.
Oh, maybe.
No, come on. You gotta do it. If only to talk with us more. Anyway.
Sure, yeah. Sure.
All right, so moving right along to the last point I want to bring up. There are so many themes and ideas that run throughout Bioshock, and Ken Levine, the creative director for the series, has stated that it is influenced by books like we've mentioned, Atlas Shrugged, and Orwell's books as well. What I want to know is what particular theme throughout the game stuck with you the most or hit home with you?
I'm just doing that to Cory.
Either one. Flip a coin.
Go ahead. I want to process it for a minute.
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure anything by itself necessarily hit. I like the pulp feel. That was the theme that stuck out to me the most. Was it feels like this late 30s, early 40s kind of steampunk kind of feel. That was the theme that I took from it, I guess, if that's what you're asking. I'm not sure if that's what you mean.
Well, more so like, let's see, we've got the doctor who takes the idea of like physical enhancement to an extreme. We've got the artist who goes like to crazy lengths to promote his art. You've got the mechanical gentleman who, you know, he created all the pipes and all the things to kind of hold the city structure in place and everything. And he took that to an extreme with the big daddies governing and everything like that. And just, I want to call him Ayn Rand, but it's Andrew Ryan. His whole ideas throughout the whole creation of Bioshock. You know, these are things that kind of... And the whole... just everything that was put into place, like no limitations, away from society. Like the whole intro of the game, you know, where it's like... where does the power belong? The religion says it's theirs, the government says it's theirs, and the communists say it's theirs, blah, blah, blah. And I said, fuck you all, and I went under the sea.
I guess actually that is probably the best, the strongest theme for me that holds out that we forget about.
I just
right
totally
from the start.
plugged it in your head, too. That's why.
No, you're right, though. That start right from the start is you don't forget, but it certainly takes a back seat in your mind that you're fucking like in the fathoms of the ocean. So there's so much water above you, and there's so much going on in the rest of the world. Yeah, what's happening here seems so important. Mm-hmm. I guess that is pretty resounding theme that I enjoy quite a bit in the game.
Coolio.
Well, I have two answers. One's not what you asked at all. I firmly, after having...
Have I said you're a great
I'm the
person
best.
to have on this show?
After having played through Infinite, I firmly believe that the Bioshock games are all about choice. All of them. That's the number one theme about the franchise holds, is it's the choices that we make turn us into the people we are. That's what I take away from the franchise as a whole. From Bioshock 1 specifically, after having gone into it, again, for the second time, I kind of think, like, what I took away this time was that there's a lot of talking about, like, you talk about the artist, you talk about the doctor, you talk about the guy, and these are, at one point, these were people that were very talented, well-respected, productive members of their community.
Right.
And then they took what it was that made them special, and it mutated and it turned into something dark. And I think that's the theme that I take away from, if I look at this game independently of any of the other games, is that there's a darkness in all of us. And even with the way that ends, with the game ends with, the big reveal as to what you're doing there kind of thing, that even sort of reinforces that there is a darkness inside of us that we have to, I guess, fight against if we want to, be the people we want to be. And it's easy to let that out and let it control us.
Yeah.
So, I think.
Well, I can honestly say, I know I've mentioned it countless times now, or I think only twice. I can count that.
Countless or twice.
Yeah, countless or twice. One of it too. But this is the first time a video game has made me want to go out of the genre and read a book. I read the whole reference to Atlas Shrugged from Ken Levine, and I was like, I'd never heard of that at that time. And I looked at the book, and oh my god, it is thicker than a Bible and smaller print. So it's a dense read. But probably one of the best books I have ever read in my life. And the whole idea behind it is the philosophy of objectivism. Now, I'm not trying to tote one way or another, and I am not the world's leading expert on what objectivism is and how it functions in society. But after reading that book and seeing the comparisons, the big theme for me is, I don't know if I can even create it to be a theme, but at least the idea of how far is too far.
At what point do you say you're not human anymore?
Exactly. Like, you look at everything that... and censorship. That's a big thing as well.
Well, yeah, actually, if you really think about it, all of the characters that you come across, they all talk about how morality is just getting in the way of what they want to do, how they want to succeed.
Yeah. Even all the splicers with their jibber jabber and everything like that, they wanted to see the next evolution. They wanted to be the next evolution. And the whole idea, construction of Rapture was so that all these people, all these figureheads, all these avenues of creativity were being stifled in the surface world. So that's why they built this world, to escape from that, so they can let their creations flow freely without any restraint. And this is what happens, is because, like what you were saying, is like there is some inherent evil in almost everybody if you have the choice. So this is like objectivism. Well, I don't know if it's objectivism or Atlas Shrugged the book taken to the extreme, where in the book, this isn't really a spoiler thing, this is just what happens. All the greatest minds kind of go away to let their creative juices kind of flow and produce what they were meant to. And it's not because they want to better mankind, it's that they want to better themselves. So it's very a greedy kind of thing. But it's like that old Wall Street phrase from Michael Douglas there, greed is good. Yeah, yeah. You know? So it's taking that approach to it, and it's applying it to every avenue of human progress and human ingenuity. So when you look at Bioshock and you've got the doctor that takes plastic surgery to horrific lengths, and inhabitants, they want to do that because they look at someone and it's not too far off from reality, where it's like, oh, she has the bigger boobs. I want bigger boobs than that, so it looks disproportionate. The guy's on steroids. They want to get bigger muscles than the last guy. That's disproportionate. They want the big lips. They want the, Botoxed face. They want the bleached blonde hair and all this kind of stuff. How far away are we as a society from... And I'm getting, like, really big. How far away are we as a society from that Bioshock thing, where it's like we're just a grain away from, like, oh, somebody has like a facial scar and, oh, aren't they beautiful, we should support that, and then, oh, I want a facial scar too, and then it just becomes like these horrific Joker kind of faces all over the place, and that's apparently the beautiful thing. So
not too far. Like, if we're looking at society or the way we're going as a society as a slope, it's definitely going down. Yeah.
Thankfully, there are 3 handsome gentlemen that are keeping it afloat. So
we do what we can.
We do what we can, yes.
I'm just wondering who this 3rd handsome gentleman you're talking about is.
Oh, it's me.
Oh.
Mr. Blue.
Mr. Blue.
There you go.
Our beautiful Mike. So yeah, that was the big thing that I kept coming away from Bioshock with, was just this whole dilemma or debate of, like, how far is too far, because you look at some scientific achievements that happen in the world today and you almost question yourself, like, why did it take so long? Or you hear about experiments that are just waiting for that fund to kind of fall through. Like, how many times have we heard about a cure for HIV and we still haven't established it? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, what's holding it back? Why wouldn't you just make it? Well, there are all these loopholes and government things that you gotta tie your way through. So if you look at Rapture as this place where none of that would be constrained, it is very appealing.
But it can also be...
But then you get the freak show.
But then if you the risk, and it is a very Ayn Rand kind of thought, is that absolute power corrupts, right? So somebody who has the freedom to create that HIV vaccine, awesome, but in an environment where there are no repercussions for open experimentation, why not take that HIV vaccine and turn it into a weapon? Because that would be beautiful from a development standpoint, right? Or why not mass produce it and turn it into a candy? You know, like, I don't know. I kind of zigged when I zagged it.
No. But we could bomb them, or we could give them treats.
My point is sort of exactly what you're saying. Is that I think the pendulum swings both ways. I think that we can, if we take humanity's priorities is a slippery slope going down. I think that what Bioshock could be saying is that when the pendulum swings back up, that can be almost as bad, or just as bad.
Cool. Well, that's going to bring the discussion on Bioshock to a close. Any parting thoughts on it, guys?
Play the game. Play it. It's a wonderful game.
I'm amazed that they said that at the same time. That's awesome.
Play Infinite.
Yes.
And just as a quick promo for myself, I am going to be... Well, if my schedule's right, really I think you may have watched... I'm doing a Franchise Friday on the Bioshock series as a whole. And you will hear my opinions on 2 and Infinite. And I probably won't dive into Bioshock 1 too much because we have this right here. So look for that. I think it comes out before this actual video if you're watching this now, so you can look for that. So we're back from a quick little break there, and we have decided what our next game of the month is going to be for the month of May. And that game is...
Halo!
Halo!
Wait.
What?
You're talking about Halo 4, right?
No.
Wait. Well, then you must be talking about Halo Reach, right?
And not Halo OSTD.
Halo Wars? OSTD.
STD.
Yeah, no.
That's the old STD.
Halo. The original.
The original Halo.
Before multiplayer. Just Halo.
Time to teach these young gamers a thing or two about what came before them.
So there you go. You've played it before, you're going to play it again, and you're going to hear our take on it on next month's Deep Seeded Geek Game of the Month. And don't forget, leave a comment below. The best comment wins a copy of the Basement Collection. So look for that next time. And on behalf of everybody here, and Josh, our bro that can't be here for the end, we will see you next time on Deep Seeded Geek. Take care.
Everyone.
Bye.